everybody, the Lawn Gnome is here, and this, of course, is Up From the Underground Presents Football Week 6. With me, as always, are my two fantastic panelists to the right of me, and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, these aren't the droids you're looking for. Ladies and gentlemen, the notorious Mr. Beagle and Captain Shenanigans. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
What at you, droid?
So, basically, what can I possibly say to cap Week 5, besides the fact that it takes a manliest of men to wear pink?
Oh man, I like the idea. I think
this is a very exciting week. I like
Absolutely.
it a lot.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you believe in Sam Bradford yet?
No.
Not really. I believe in
Mark Sanchez still has more passing yards.
That's really
That's
sad.
why I do not believe in him.
That is really sad.
But it's still absolutely crazy seeing exactly what teams did and what teams didn't do. I mean, and then there were two. There are two undefeated teams left, ladies and gents.
If RG3 would have stayed in there, I would have been right about that.
Well, thank goodness he ain't out for the count and he's coming back. It's ironic that Kirk Cousins actually went in, another rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
His name got lost in the
shuffle.
shuffle.
Very different quarterback. He's more of a Drew Bledsoe type. You know, he'll stay in the pocket as a statue, but he's much, much better tosser than Bledsoe was.
Yeah, less Peyton Manning, more Bledsoe.
I would also like to believe that the games that we all chose as our games to watch for the week ended up being exactly what we expected.
Mine wasn't.
Mine did.
Actually,
mine was terrible.
The result, perhaps, but the game was quite good.
The game was okay. I was watching it at Uno's Pizzeria, actually. It was okay.
And I actually have to say that even though I didn't get what I wanted, it still was a great Manning versus Brady matchup.
Yeah, that was.
Great game.
Oh, boy.
My game, the Saints Chargers, I think was best game of the week.
That really was.
And of course, congratulations to Drew Brees on breaking Johnny Unitas' record.
That's right.
It's nice to know that there was a little bit of leeway via Bountygate, knowing that Sean Payton was at least allowed to be in the presence while Drew Brees broke the record. I thought that was really
I'm
nice.
not in favor of that. I think it sets a double standard as far as the NFL, sanctions committee goes, and I think it undermines Goodell's power.
Well, he wasn't giving him any pointers via, like, whispers or Spygate or whatever.
And while this was done not at Payton's request, but rather at Brees' request, I still don't think it should have been allowed. That's like allowing Pete Rose back into
watching Reds games.
Well, to be quite honest, he was at the 99 All-Star game, so maybe, you know what, maybe people forgive and forget, really.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are certain athletes out there that unfortunately have gotten, the ways of being shunned. Joe Jackson and Pete Rose, ironically, it is postseason baseball, and it's probably more exciting than the Thursday night game that we're going to see this week.
Wait, they're still playing baseball?
Yeah, actually, the Giants beat the Reds today.
Yeah.
And they won.
And the
they're still playing baseball?
And the Nationals just created a Game 5 for their series, so it's pretty intense over in baseball.
Speaking of Thursday night football, we're actually watching it right now. It is Thursday night.
And I think more people are watching the Yankee game as far as I'm concerned at this point in time.
Probably.
And later on, the Tigers-A's game.
Actually, it's funny. If I made a bet this past Sunday, I would have lost because I bet my friends that the Yankees would score more points than the Jets would.
And the other question that I really want to figure is, this coming week, before we get into our picks, it's definitely going to be an interesting one because we saw some things happen in Week 5 that I'm trying to understand what it will bring for Week 6, and there's two specific games that I want to bring to the attention. The Colts-Packers game, which was absolutely shocking.
Not to me. You know what? There were so many picks last week where I made a choice, and then I thought to myself, if I'm wrong, I won't be surprised.
But that wasn't one of them.
It was. I just didn't say it publicly.
Oh, okay.
In fact, most of the picks could have gone either way, quite honestly.
Well, you know what? The playing field has leveled out since last week, ever since the refs came back, and I think it's a huge coincidence, but making these choices for the picks has gotten significantly harder the past 2 weeks, and including this one too.
I disagree. I actually think it's gotten a little easier because now we've seen teams. We've seen teams. What they can bring, what they're like when they're on, what they're like when they're off, and I just think it's going to get easier as the season wears on to determine a winner. In a given week, there'll be at least 1 week where one of us is perfect.
I'm going to pretend to be Switzerland and basically say I think it's a little bit of both of what you're both saying. I feel that some games are going to be easier than most to tell, and then there are some that are still going to be a little bit hard to figure out. Another team that I want to really bring on to conversation is the Texans. Now, we all picked the Planet Houston for last week's game, but the Jets almost won.
No, they didn't.
They didn't almost.
If it wasn't for that interception, they would have won.
Excuse me, you just said it right there.
If it weren't
if it weren't for Tom Brady, the Jets would have won the AFC East the last 3 or 4 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to explain is I didn't expect the Texans to make it, or the Jets, for that matter, to make it that close of a game. I thought that the Texans were going to show that they're one of the best teams in football and run all over them.
But history should have told you that the Jets would have made a big deal out of it. This is the Jets at the Meadowlands on Monday night. Mm-hmm. And there was a Jumbo Elliott type touchdown
oh,
yes, there
man.
was.
In that game.
What a game.
2000
Monday Night Football.
It was 2000.
I remember that because it was on the night of Game 2 of the Mets-Yankees World Series.
Yep.
That's how I remember that. Jumbo Elliott won it. The Jets played the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Monday Night Miracle.
Yep.
They came back from 24 down or something?
Something like that,
yeah. Well, anyway, before we actually get into the picks, guys, because I think we're ready to go, of course, Captain Shenanigans, if you'll be my guest and tell our wonderful viewers/listeners where to find us.
All right. If you don't already know, and I suppose you might, but I'll tell you anyways, we can be found on the channel Football Goulash.
So before we get into the picks, let's talk about our tallies once again, ladies and gentlemen. There is a belt.
Oh.
And there are now 2 of us with winning records.
And
we have Captain Shenanigans with the belt this week
Booyah!
At 41 and 36. I, the Lawn Gnome, come in at 39 and 38, and Notorious Mr. Beagle not far behind, 38 and 39.
Oh man, this is close.
I'm only 3 games behind you.
I'm still out in front.
Well, just to all you fantasy players, if you have any players that are from the following teams on your fantasy team, the Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New Orleans Saints, put those players on your bench because they are on bye week this week. Mm-hmm. Thursday night game, let's start this. I want to give this to the Notorious Mr. Beagle first. Pittsburgh versus Tennessee.
Well, I mean, considering the fact that when we started recording, the score was 0-0. Yeah. Now the score is 3-3. So really, it's anybody's game.
Again.
Exactly. So that score will not influence my pick, but I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh because Tennessee is just a disaster. Chris Johnson, this season and last season, he's had less than 600 yards combined. It just doesn't. If your primary rusher doesn't go anywhere, probably because your offensive line isn't creating spaces, then you're not going to win ball games, and the defense is a mess. I'm not even going to get into that too deeply because I know we're a little short on time tonight, so I'm just going to go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this one is pretty easy to pick. The Steelers are going to win this. It's not going to be a runaway game, but the Titans are just a terrible team, and the players are not clicking together as a team, and in football, that's what it's all about. You're either part of the pavement or part of the steamroller, and right now the Titans are looking like the pavement, so Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers for me too. I mean, the Steelers are definitely not the team that they used to be, and now, of course, with Polamalu re-injuring his calf.
Again?
Yeah, but I still don't think that that's going to be much of a difference for them in this game. Maybe for a couple down the line.
They're not the team they used to be defensively. Offensively, they're better than they used to be.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Butterball Mendenhall is back.
That's
and
right.
he's actually doing a very good job.
He hasn't fumbled yet.
No.
When he's not injured, he doesn't do a bad job. So, yeah, I just feel that they just are not going to give the Titans any room for capitalizing. So I'm going to give this one to the Steelers as well. So let's take a look at one of the games featuring one of the last undefeated teams in the NFL, the Oakland Raiders versus the Atlanta Falcons. You want to talk about a team that's got no offensive tools besides one? It's definitely the Oakland Raiders. I just don't know why these guys should even continue their season. I don't even know why we even thought they were going to be one of the stronger teams this year.
Because they were.
They looked good. That's why.
The defense hasn't gelled, and they've had a slew of injuries on offense.
Again, they haven't clicked together as a team.
Yeah.
That's another one.
I'm also picking the Falcons to win this game.
It's
in the Dome, and they defend the Dome.
Yeah. That's another three-peat right there.
Yeah, so here's an interesting game. I'll give Captain Shenanigans the chance to jump into this one first. Let's talk about AFC North rivalry game, the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Cleveland Browns. Who's that?
That is me. I am Mr. Beagle.
Ooh.
Cincinnati at Cleveland. AFC North. Bitter rivalry between these two teams. These two teams have met more often than any other two teams in the history of the NFL.
More than the Bears and Packers?
More than the Bears and Packers by 2.
Wow.
2 games. Because they're older.
Cincinnati's actually younger, but they've just played so many games against each other. This is going to be a hard-hitting game. This is going to be a defensive and offensive powerhouse. It's going to be a ground game for most of the way. You're going to see the law firm Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. You're going to see Trent Richardson, who is showing signs of incredible talent. I'm very impressed with him. Whedon is finally beginning to calm down, and the Red Rocket is, he's good, and he's finding good receivers. The Browns receivers are actually starting to come along in Cribbs and Gordon. So this is going to be a very, very good game to watch. It's going to be a very fun game to watch. And I am going to pick the Cleveland Browns to win.
Boy. It's one of those games where I had trouble picking a winner because the Browns have been showing signs of life in almost every game they've been playing. And this is one of those games where I consider it a coin flip because I would not be surprised if the Browns win. But I'm going to pick the Bengals because I think they have the offensive tools to just basically score more points.
You know, it's a very tough game to figure, but I'm listening to what Mr. Beagle's saying, I'm listening to what the captain is saying, and the thing that I can say about this is you could basically give this a coin flip because the way that these two teams are performing right now, they're meeting together at Week 6, I think that this is a even match by all means, from quarterback to defense. But I feel that this time, I am actually going to say the Browns, just because don't discount the dog pound, baby.
Oh boy.
You know you just guaranteed Captain Shenanigans to win, right?
Thank you.
No, Mr. Beagle, that's Seattle.
Oh boy.
Seems every time you and I pick a winner, he wins.
Oh, that's because I'm awesome?
Let's see what happens. So then the next game that we're going to go to is the St. Louis Rams versus the Miami Dolphins.
Oh boy.
And that's me, everybody. Why do I think that this game is going to be exciting? Same reason why you picked the Browns-Bengals game, Mr. Beagle. This is two teams, Ryan Tannehill, showing beautiful signs of greatness. He's starting to really click with his offense. Their defense is also showing major signs of strength, and if you saw the way that they played in their last game, they played a pretty good game. St. Louis, I will keep saying that I believe in Bradford. I believe that he's never had an opportunity to show what he really can do. This season, with himself and his entire offense at full strength, he's showing that they are, in fact, the real deal. The NFC West is starting to look like a very strong conference.
It is one of the strongest.
It is, yeah.
Every single one of these teams is, I believe, over 500?
I don't have the standings in front of me.
I think that they're 500 or above. I feel that these two teams are very evenly matched, but the team that I'm going to go with in this game is going to be the St. Louis Rams. I just believe in Bradford. That's my reasoning.
It's not that I believe in Bradford. I think he's an okay quarterback. But, you know, if you're going to like Bradford for those reasons, then you should have been a huge fan of Mark Vulture. So, just saying, just putting it out there.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Right? No, but I'm also going to go with the Rams because while the Dolphins may have just started clicking, that's the entire point. They just started clicking. I don't think they have the opportunity to win this game. You know, the Rams are on a roll right now, and I think they're going to continue on with that. So.
I am going to disagree with both of you. I'm going to go with Miami.
I'm not surprised.
Because you have convinced me to believe in Tannehill.
Well, I still believe in Tannehill.
And I believe in Brian Hartline.
Brian Hartline.
I do too. I think he's great.
And Anthony Fasano, and Reggie Bush, who are coming through and actually living up to what they're supposed to do. Miami defense may be a little shaky, but they're actually ranked in one of the top 5 in the NFL right now.
Correct figure.
So I'm going to go with the Dolphins winning at home.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I
wouldn't be surprised.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It's just another one of those games that can go either way.
Exactly.
So, speaking of going in either way, we're going to take a break from our picks and, of course, go to one of our favorite segments with the notorious Mr. Beagle. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe on everything that you've just heard. And don't forget the channel's Football Goulash. Now for a little get on the boat and get off the goat, we take it to the notorious Mr. Beagle.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever the hell you are. On next week's edition of Get on the Boat and Get off the Goat, we focus on the highs and the lows of the NFL from Week 5. This week's boat, I mean, is there any doubt that it's going to go to Reggie Wayne? This is a guy, 12-year veteran, been with the same team his entire career. When Peyton Manning left, he could have walked and gone to what he thought was a better team. He didn't. He re-signed with the Colts, and he's helping Andrew Luck become a better quarterback by providing a veteran presence on the field, and it showed on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
That last drive, the game-winning drive, he caught, 6 passes in that drive, totaled over 200 yards for I think only the second or third time in his career, set a career high in yards, had a great extension to get across the end zone for that touchdown, and was just a rock-solid foundation for which the Colts could win one for Chuck. You know, they really were Chuck strong, and the oldest guy on that team, well, I should say the longest tenured guy on that team, took command and made the win possible. An honorable mention goes to the coaching staff of the Seattle Seahawks for engineering the purposeful safety.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were watching that game, but the Seahawks were up 16-10, and they were punting from their own end zone. So what do? Instead of, punting and having them, a chance to, return, they snap the ball to the punter, who then proceeds to run around the end zone to eat up clock time. And it was genius. They got the safety because he ran out of bounds, so he ate up a good 10 seconds. The other team still needed a touchdown to win the game, and they didn't get it.
It was pretty smart.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very smart move.
Absolutely.
This week's GOAT goes all the way from Ralph Wilson all the way down to Ryan Lindell. I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills, who have given up how many points in 2 weeks? Is it over 100? I mean, you re-sign your quarterback for nearly $100 million. You sign this defensive tackle for over $100 million, and nothing's happening. You got one of the best running backs in the game in Fred Jackson. You got one of the best backups in the game in C.J. Spiller. You have one of the fastest receivers in the game in Stevie Johnson. And you got a pretty damn good tight end in Scott Chandler. And yet, you only score 3 points? San Francisco doesn't have that good of a defense, do they? They don't. I think they're ranked, 16th, 17th? It's unfathomable that this large talent pool, and they got Brad Smith. It's unfathomable that this talent pool cannot score more than 3 points. The sad part is, Bills are only in second place in the AFC East. This week's stat of the week, besides the Breeze touchdown, the New York Jets' Joe McKnight returned a kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown. This marks the 11th consecutive season that the Jets have returned a kick for a touchdown. All 11 seasons have been under Mike Westhoff, who is retiring this year, by the way. So this is his last hurrah.
Wow, go figure.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Jet special teams is not bad.
Jet special teams has been fantastic because of Westhoff. He's a genius. Yeah. He's a Hall of Famer, and he'll soon probably be an analyst for ESPN or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind listening to him.
And those are my boat and goat of Week 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beagle. Comment, like, and subscribe, everybody. So let's continue with the picks. Oh, boy. This is going to be a fun one. Who wants to start off with the Detroit Lions at the Philadelphia Eagles, Captain? Coin, sir?
Tag, you're in.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I want to hear you guys.
I'm going with the Eagles.
Okay.
The Eagles, all right.
Because,
convince me.
Okay.
Convince me.
Vic has had an abysmal year.
He makes Sanchez look good.
Okay? The defense hasn't had more than, 1 or 2 interceptions. The offensive line has let Vic get sacked so many times. Yet they still have 3 wins.
It's unbelievable. And they all won those by
1
points or less.
A total of 4 points combined. But they're facing Detroit, who clearly has problems. Megatron seems a lot slower this year. I think because he played a little too much last year, he's not quite recovered. Stafford is not 100%. I just don't see the Eagles, who are a very talented team, falling at home for the and being this bad for the rest of the season. I just don't see them doing that. I think that they will beat Detroit. I don't think Detroit is firing on all cylinders, and they're going to be one of these best to worst teams of this year. Just like the Chiefs were last year.
Well, we'll talk about the Chiefs later.
Yeah.
Again, I see what you're saying. I mean, these are two teams that clearly do have problems. And yes, home field can always be an advantage, but the only reason why I feel that Detroit has a little bit more of an edge at this point in time is just because they're coming off the bye. Now, that may be a good thing, that may not be a good thing. But, again, it's so hard to figure out which one of these two teams is going to win, so I don't know. I don't even want to know if I should waste a coin flip here, but as far as I'm concerned, I just am going to give this win to Detroit just because of the fact that they're a little bit more well-rested. That leaves you, Captain.
Again, both of you had good arguments as to why the Lions or the Eagles should win. I'm not saying that Mr. Beagle's argument was better than yours, but I think I'm going to pick the Eagles only because the most convincing part of that was, A, they're at home, and B, they can't possibly be as bad as they're pretending to be. So I'm gonna say the Eagles for this one.
All right, so let's go to the next game. Oh boy, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mr. Beagle?
This is my toilet bowl of the week.
I think this is everybody's toilet bowl of the week. Stay away, unless you want to induce vomiting.
I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. Castle's out, so Brady Quinn is in. Last time he started the game was, I think it was the Jurassic.
Not even Denver. He was on Cleveland when he last time
Probably,
started.
Yeah. Wait, he was on Cleveland?
Yeah, he was.
He started off in Cleveland.
Yep.
Then he got traded to the Broncos.
Oh, I don't
He
care.
never started.
I really don't care. Tampa Bay wins, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I actually am going to go with the Buccaneers on this one. I mean, I know that I have been trying to push Tampa Bay, saying that they are a good team. This is pretty much, for them, a win in the bucket. If they manage to squeeze
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't say win in the
I
bucket,
don't think
but
that Quinn's going to have a good game. Look, the Chiefs, based on what I saw last week against Baltimore, I just don't have any faith in the Chiefs. Now, if they manage to win, I'm not going to eat a shoe, but I will definitely do something that will, not be to my liking, but I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
Kansas City held Baltimore's very potent offense to only 9 points.
I don't think Baltimore was trying. I think they were laughing too hard on the sidelines.
I will say that if Kansas City wins, I will not be surprised, quite honestly. I think they're a very talented team. They just got to stop with the turnovers.
They are abysmal with the turnovers, and that's what kills them. Because if you look at their stats, the points scored by their opponents off of turnovers is sky high. You can't do that if you want to win a game. The Buccaneers are going to win, but it's going to be a nasty, just ugly-looking game. Don't watch this. Toilet bowl of the week.
Just watch Red Zone so you don't have to watch it all.
Yeah.
Let's go with the
or
next...
if you have DirecTV, watch the 8 games at once.
Yeah,
just don't watch that one.
If you go to the next game, we're going to look at the Cowboys against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm saying this, Dallas was one of those teams that everybody was looking at in preseason as a changed team, a team that's really going to make a statement, really going to make a difference. They have won, but they haven't done much damage. I don't really know what their damage even is. But right now, they're going up against one of the strongest teams in the NFL. Not only that, they're playing in the strongest team's home. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel that Baltimore is going to kick the snot out of Dallas. And I'm giving this one to the Ravens.
M&T Bank Stadium was ranked by ESPN as the hardest venue to win at in the NFL for opposing teams. Baltimore wins.
Yeah. This is another hard game to pick, and it wasn't down to a coin toss, but rather who has the better defense. It's one of those... The Cowboys' defense has been looking a little bit shady, but then again, so has the Ravens' defense in some of their games. I haven't quite figured out who's more dominant on which side. I originally marked down the Cowboys, and then listening to you two, I think you've changed my mind. I think the Ravens are going to win this.
I mean, let's also not exclude the fact that Dallas is coming off a bye.
That's the
only advantage that they've got in this game.
Dallas historically has done worse coming off of a bye than not. So I'm going to go with the Ravens on this one.
And when it comes to my toilet bowl of the week, the Buffalo Bills against the Arizona Cardinals, and I will have to say that I made this my toilet bowl just a couple of seconds ago after your segment, Mr. Beagle, because if this is really what Buffalo is all about, I don't think that Arizona is going to lose 2 in a row. I feel that back in Arizona, they're going to be pumped, they're going to be ready to get back on track. I think that Arizona is going to win this game.
I'll agree with you there. I do think the Cardinals are going to win. It's, they're mad. Okay, they put up an abysmal performance in St. Louis, and they want to come back strong. They've had 10 whole days to think about it and analyze what they did wrong, and they're going to. Larry Fitzgerald's going to have 3 touchdowns this game, except the loss of Ryan Williams does hurt. So please take that into consideration.
But they're playing against a very depleted and frankly non-threatening Bills team.
Underachieving is the word.
I would agree with you on that.
The Cardinals, I'm not going to say they're going to run away with it, but they're definitely going to win this one. It's not going to be a contest. So
well, thank goodness this week we're not showing a ton of holy trifectas here, but on that note, we're going to go with the next segment as we pull away from the picks. We're going to go with Lessons Learned from Week 5 with Captain Shenanigans.
Hey everybody, this is Captain Shenanigans with Week 6 of Lessons Learned. Now, I have to say this. I'm going to start off with this. It's not an actual lesson, but for all you paying attention to, and, maybe even writing it down every once in a while, and I'm talking to owners and people in the NFL right now, you probably should pay attention to me because more often than not, I'm pretty damn right. Okay?
I'll agree.
Yeah, I'm pretty damn right. Okay.
You'll agree, circle gets a square.
Hey. Alright. First lesson learned this week. If you're going to block, okay, especially if you're going to do a cut block, at least do it legally.
You're talking about Matt Slauson.
Yeah, I'm talking about Matt Slauson. I'm looking at you, fat boy. Alright, he just got fined by the league for an obscene amount of money for basically taking out Brian Cushing of the Texans for the rest of the season. Now, everybody has their opinion on it, but if you look at the replays, it doesn't look legal. Yes, they teach you from high school on while you're playing football, cut block is fine. Just do it legally, please. Don't injure the guy, because that's the last thing you ever want to see in an NFL game, Alright. Lesson number 2. Vic is owning a dog now? Someone get the ASPCA over there pronto.
Oh,
this is disturbing news, y'all. Lesson number 3. Is it once again Tebow time? Hells yes, says 55% of the league and people who watch the NFL on the television, according to ESPN.com. But what about all these overpaid QBs who aren't doing their job? The Jets had signed Sanchez to a long-term deal for an obscene amount of money. They can't just bench him right now. Look at the Buffalo Bills and Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's not doing a very good job. Is it worth it to sit him? Not really. Not for the money you're paying him. So if you're gonna go with your backup quarterback, make sure you're not gonna lose money off the deal. All right. And of course, the last lesson learned is even though it's a bye week for them, still the number 1 threat in America, Bears. And that is your lessons learned for week number 6. I'm Captain Shenanigans. Keep watching.
Thank you very much, Captain Shenanigans. Everyone, feel free to comment and like on what you heard. I'd love to hear your feedback. And, of course, Football Goulash is the name of the show. Let's go with some of our local teams finally, shall we? Let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts versus the New York Jets. I want to go and hear you guys first because I don't know what to say about this game.
This one was interesting because while the Colts have been terrible early, they showed what was for me a surprising win last week, and they showed signs of life, and they look like an actual football team. While the Jets lately have looked like they could have been beaten by a couple of Division II college teams. So I think the Colts are going to win this one. It's not going to be pretty for the Jets, and the Jets still have a number of injuries on both sides of the ball. This is the Colts game to win.
I'm going to go with the Jets on this
What?
one. Yeah.
Okay.
The Colts have, I believe, more key injuries to more key players than the Jets do. They have Mathis out, their leading sacker. Their number one running back is out, Donald Brown. And the Jets are getting Stephen Hill back. They're getting Dustin Keller back. They're getting Mangold back healthier because he's had a week to rest.
That's true.
Really, there's only 2 players now who are out for the Jets. Well, 3, I should say, who are really impactful players, and that's Revis and Holmes, who are out for the season, and Eric Smith. But Eric Smith is a backup.
Yeah, he is.
He's a good backup, but he is in a backup role. So I'm going to go with the Jets on this one. I just don't think the Colts will have the same fire. It's in the Meadowlands, which is a pretty hard place to play. And I think the Jets win.
It's at home again. Oh, man, I think you convinced me, dude.
Well, here's what I'm going to say about this game. It's a tough game to pick because the question really is going to be, in these 2 teams that are battling on Sunday, which team is going to show up? We saw a Jets team completely lousy against San Francisco, and even with a loss against Houston, they still managed to make it a formidable loss. Mr. Beagle made a valid point saying that Keller and Hill are back, so that means that Sanchez has got some extra weapons in the arsenal right now.
It is still Mark Sanchez, though.
That is true.
I think that's why I'm sticking with the Colts.
However, with the Colts making that impressive win against the Packers, here's the reason. This was a very offensive game that they won, so that's what they really relied upon. The Jets are much stronger from a defensive perspective than an offensive perspective. So as far as I'm concerned in regards to this game, it's going to be the defense that wins the game. Jets will win. It's also just because of the fact that the Jets have a tougher opponent coming up the week after. They're going to really want to bone up and just, put some confidence back into this team.
It's one of those games where I had personal trouble picking the winner for this one. So even though I'm a Jets fan through, it does. Don't we have a cream for that now?
Let's go to my coin flip of the week. The New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks. And I call it my coin flip because I don't want to pick a winner, because every single time I pick the team that Seattle plays, Seattle wins. If I pick Seattle, the other team wins. So I'm going to let the coin decide, everybody. We go in the order of the teams versing one another. So that means heads is going to the away team, which is the New England Patriots. And the tails is going to the home team, which is Seattle.
The Sea Chickens.
Which is, in fact, a very big advantage for the Seahawks.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Seattle.
Yes, finally. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Because I picked New England.
So did I. I'm sorry. Hey, listen. If the Seahawks actually win, man, what should I do? No, seriously. Because if you actually get that right on a coin flip. Not that I would be surprised, but I feel like I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, screw it.
No, I think New England's going to win because the last time they lost, when they played an NFC West team, they lost to Arizona. But they lost Aaron Hernandez as well, and they weren't quite prepared for that. They're prepared now because the tight ends are no longer the first option because Gronkowski is struggling a little bit. They're going to Welker, and Welker is the best there is in the slot.
I think Welker was a product of the system. I think you put him on any other team, and he wouldn't have done as well.
Actually, when he was on Denver, he did very well.
I don't remember when he was on Denver. Does anybody?
Nope. Who gets the victory, Captain?
This one's the Patriots to win. It's going to be ugly, and it's not going to be fun to watch for anyone involved. Say that.
Well, speaking of games that are not going to be entertaining, I think the last 4 games that we're going to go through are going to be 4 of the most exciting games of the week. Let's start with one of the ones that I'm actually looking forward to. Who wants to take the New York Giants versus the San Francisco 49ers? Mr. Beagle, I see you smiling. Go for it.
Oh, boy.
Why would the NFL do this? Why would they schedule this right after the playoffs that we had?
Yeah, man.
This is oh boy.
Somebody likes the idea of
I'll tell you,
self-flagellation.
Tom Coughlin is a genius because he has stated that nobody is picking his team to win, which is completely untrue. It has no basis in reality. He did the same thing last year when he was going up against the Patriots. He did the same thing 5 years ago when they went up against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And it worked. It fires up his team because now the media is going to feast on this, go up to every single player and be like, what do you think about the league's, no respect to you as far as thinking you could win? And it's going to get them enraged. It's going to get them ready to play. And Coughlin knows this. And he's playing this card to get his team fired up and to get his team to play better than they have been. And it's going to work. Giants win.
Captain.
You know what? That was a very, very convincing
Absolutely.
argument. It actually was. Tom Coughlin is one of the only coaches that I've ever watched that can successfully pull off the us against the world card, where the team actually succeeds because of that. There are very few teams I've seen that have the us against the world mentality, and they win games. But I don't know. As a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game, I think the 49ers are going to win because they're a much better team now than they were last year. And I think the Giants still have some areas where they have problems right now. I think Eli is still one of my favorite players. He's a top 5 elite quarterback. But it's going to be the 49ers winning it, but it's going to be really close. I'm saying 3 points or less.
So this game really comes down to everything is practically evenly matched. You got the drill sergeant in Coughlin against the psychopath in Harbaugh. I mean, these two teams are ready for each other. Yes, these two teams have strengths over weaknesses. The Giants have the better quarterback. The 49ers have the better defense. The running backs are practically neck and neck when it comes to Gore and Bradshaw. But you know something? The only reason why I feel the 49ers have that little bit of a competitive edge is just because of the fact that they've been waiting for the Giants to come back since they lost that NFC Championship game. And I feel that even though there's a very good chance that Eli and the Giants will win, this game will be close. It will possibly be overtime.
This was actually my backup for Game of the Week.
It could have been my Game of the Week as well, but
really
I just feel right now, this game is where home field advantage is really going to shine. Candlestick Park, I just feel that the 49ers are going to win by that
Exactly,
much.
yeah, it's going to be 3 or less, I guarantee.
But if the Giants win, I won't be shocked.
Nope, it's also personal for Mario Manningham.
Here's another awesome game to talk about. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings against the Washington Redskins.
I don't think this is going to be as awesome as you think.
How come?
RG3, he's not going to be at full strength. He's got a bruised eye after this, figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
And Minnesota is just... They're really gelling. They came back a lot faster than anybody thought. And also take into consideration that this game is in our nation's capital, where the Redskins... in the past 8 games are 0-8.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, this one...
So you picked the Vikings?
Yeah!
You didn't say that, Captain.
It was pretty...
I kind of wish I picked Washington because then I would have been like, no, of course not. I picked Washington.
Yeah.
No, but I do pick the Vikings to win.
Yeah, this one, I flipped around a little bit for this, and then I decided that the Vikings, while they're not going to run away with this game, they're the better team right now. They play as a team better than the Redskins, and that's going to give them the W this week.
I feel that this game is going to be exciting one way or another, but right now I'm agreeing with you both. The Vikings are now officially, as far as I can tell, a force to be reckoned with. We all thought that this team was going to be last in the NFC North. How wrong were we?
As long as the Cowboys don't win it, I'm good.
As the NFC East.
By the way, guys, I want to give you a little bit of a surprise. We're getting to the half point of the season. I'm actually going to go into the archives and take a look at our preseason special in which we all picked exactly where we thought every single one of these teams was going to be. I'd like to see how we're doing.
Yeah.
But
we dropped it.
We're still a few weeks away from the halfway point.
Yeah, but still,
Week 8.
It's good to... Yeah.
Well, it's in between week 8 and week 9, so yeah.
Sure.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Vikings are getting this win. So we're going to take a break. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. So we're going to go with Hero and Bust. Of course, my segment. Let's begin always with It's always better with Salami the hero. Sometimes in order to bring out the hero in a player, something has to happen to a fellow teammate or a family member, or in the case of Week 5, a coach having to leave because he was diagnosed with leukemia. The Indianapolis Colts really turned on the turbines and had an explosive, unexpected comeback win against the Green Bay Packers. While Andrew Luck did have a good game, it was Reggie Wayne that had the true hero's calling. Wayne had 13 receptions for a career high of 212 yards, the second highest total in Colts history.
Wow.
Wayne, who now has a catch in 100 consecutive games, passing his former Colts teammate Edgerrin James for number 2 on the Colts career high list. This did not only lift the spirits of a speedy recovery for Chuck Pagano, but now, who is to say that these Colts are just a lost cause for the season? Could this be the possible start of a revitalized team for a post-Manning era? Tune in next Sunday. Honorable mentions: Sam Bradford, Alfred Morris, and with no surprise, Drew Brees. So my bust. Last week I asked, is there anyone worse out there than the New York Jets? The answer is yes, there is.
Thank God.
I have realized that there are worse things to be done to you than getting booed by your fans or even having your fans cheer when you're being benched for the day. Let's take a look at the case of the Chiefs quarterback, Matt Castle.
I totally forgot about that.
Throughout the day, he committed 4 turnovers, 2 of which were in the KC red zone. It was such a shocking turn of events that caused the announcer on television to yell, "What just happened?"
What is going on?
I can't believe he actually said that.
Yeah.
After the first red zone turnover, by the way.
Mm-hmm. The first one.
But it gets worse. After a shellacking from a somewhat sloppy Ravens team, Halati Nada hit Castle so hard he ended up on the ground for several minutes and had to leave the game with a head injury. Then, from out of nowhere, it happened. The proof that you can truly be hated by your fans when Arrowhead Stadium applauded and cheered as Matt Castle was taken off the field. Could this be the worst team in the NFL? Well, it certainly is not the Jets at this point, and unfortunately, there seems to be more bad amongst the 32 teams in the NFL this year than good so far. Dishonorable mentions: Michael Vick, Cam Newton, and the Titans and the Jaguars as a collective whole. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my hero and bust for Week 5.
I think I heard the announcers say this past Sunday that there are only 5 AFC teams with winning records.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Out of 16.
That's sad.
Let's move on to the final 2 games. Of course, they're always the Sunday night and the Monday night game, so we're going to go with the Sunday night game, and what a fun game this will be. The Green Bay Packers against the Houston Texans. Captain?
This one should be a no-brainer, because even though Brian Cushing is out for the rest of the season, the Texans' defense is so dominant that Aaron Rodgers is just going to be frustrated, and he's going to look exactly like he did last year against the Giants in the playoffs. He's going to be frustrated, he's going to have no one to throw to, and J.J. Watt is going to swat those balls out of the air. This is the Texans' game to run with.
Mr. Beagle?
I'm going to say this once. The win goes to the Green Bay Packers.
What? Oh my God.
Wow.
Talk.
This, I said the Texans.
Nope. This is a perfect matchup for the Packers. The way the Texans play offense plays right into the Packers' defensive hands. The way the Texans play defense...
Swiss cheese?
The way the Texans play defense plays right into the Packers' hands. The Packers' wide receivers are too talented, too quick, too big, and too fast for the Texas secondary.
I disagree
and
with everything.
And Rodgers is a much better scrambler than anything J.J. Watt has seen so far this year. The Packers' defense is going to get up in the Texans' offensive line, which really isn't that good. Schaub's just a good scrambler, but Raji and Matthews are going to be too much for them. Packers win.
I agree with you both. You both give very valid cases, especially since you each are taking different opponents.
Side,
yeah. But forget about the fact that Cushing is out. The Texans are very similar to the Packers. It's not about the defense. It's about the offense. I said this to a coworker of mine today. As long as Tate, Foster, and Johnson are still on that field and still healthy, Schaub has got his weapons. But Rodgers has got his weapons too. So, as far as I'm concerned, oh God, I could have flipped this one too if I really wanted to. But I'm going to go with the Houston Texans because of the fact that I picked them to win the Super Bowl this year, and I am going to be on their side until the bitter end, if it is in fact a bitter end. Will the Packers win? There's a good chance that they can.
I would not be surprised.
I think they will.
But I'm going to give it to the Texans for this one. So, of course, the Monday night game, we've got the Denver Broncos against the San Diego Chargers. I think we know who that is, everybody.
Yes, that has to be Captain Shenanigans, of course. This is your game to watch this week. Why? Because both teams, the Broncos and the Chargers, they want revenge. They don't care on who, they just want the W in their column this week. And both of them are charged, they're primed, and their offenses are frothing at the mouths for points, okay? The defense, this is going to be a very pass-happy game. You're going to see Phillip Rivers pass a lot and getting a lot of yardage. But Peyton Manning, never underestimate a Manning. Peyton Manning is going to throw for more yards this game than any game previous this season. I guarantee it. We're going to see a very pass-happy offense on both sides. And more points equals more entertainment.
But I have a question for you.
Sure.
Who gets the victory?
Yeah, I don't know! Because guess what, folks? This is my coin flip
Oh!
of the week.
This is a first.
Yes, it is not only my game of the week, but it is my coin flip of the week. Because this is a very, very tough game to choose. So, as always, Broncos are the visiting team. There will be heads. Chargers are the home team. There'll be tails. Okay. Flipping. It goes to the Broncos.
Ooh.
Interesting.
All right.
No, you know something? I'm actually going to jump in before I actually ask for Mr. Beagle's opinion. Again, Captain, this is a very tough game to call. These last 4 games that we just mentioned were all very tough games to call. Because I agree with you. Both of these teams came off of losses that they're not too happy about. Especially because of the fact that they both came so close to winning those games.
Yep.
But you're right. Don't underestimate the power of Peyton Manning. However, I just feel at this point in time, the Chargers are taking every single game like it's their last game of the season. And except for that one game where they got completely blown out, I guess it was week 2, I believe it was.
That was against Atlanta.
Yeah, that game against Atlanta.
Yeah,
that was the only game in which they did not have such a very short point margin against their opponent. So as far as I'm concerned, both of these teams are hungry, but I just feel at this point that the Chargers are hungrier. So I'm going to give this one to the Chargers.
Interesting. Interesting.
For me, it boils down to one simple fact. Both the Broncos and the Chargers last week played very tough opponents, and they both lost. But the Chargers put up more of a fight. Chargers win.
Interesting. All right. We'll see.
I'm excited because this, you know something, I'm taking a look at everybody's picks, guys, and I have to say, I see a nice little diverse, diverse package this time around. So I think it's going to be an exciting week.
We only have like
two or three trifectas?
Yeah.
Just the first 2.
No, actually, just 1, 2, 3, 4,
really?
4, wow.
5, 6.
Oh, all right.
Wow. Go figure, man.
I'm very tempted to possibly change my pick of Kansas City.
Well, I'm sorry, man. Once it goes on the pad, if you want to go flip-flop, go into politics.
Or wear the shoe with the same name.
Exactly. Yes, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, Football Goulash is the name of the channel, and before we go with our question, we do have some words from Mr. Beagle.
I'd just like to recognize the sad passing of former NFL player and wonderful actor Alex Karras. If you were born in the 80s and you watched the TV show Webster, he was the dad. If you've ever seen the movie Blazing Saddles from 1974, he was Mongo, in my opinion, one of the best roles ever.
And He was also in Porky's as the sheriff.
I never saw Porky's.
Really?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Yeah. So a very, very accomplished actor, very accomplished football player, and unfortunately, Alex Karras, dead at the age of 77. Our condolences go out to his family and his loved ones.
And to the NFL will definitely be mourning the passing and doing a lot during this coming Sunday. So
rest in peace, big guy.
Yes, sir. So for the notorious Mr. Beagle and Captain Shenanigans, I am the Lawn Gnome signing off, but leaving you with a question as always. Do you follow a team that has frustrated you for quite a number of years in your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider leaving the fan base? Once you've listed the team that you do not like, pissing you off so much, who would you root for? I am the Lawn Gnome, reminding you all that actions speak louder than words.
Is he going to catch it? Oh, he did.
Oh, and he fumbled.
And recovered? But there's a flag.